Ah, you're just in time. Pull up a chair next to the fire. Get yourself comfortable and let me tell you one of the many Legends of Ellaria. Tonight's tale is the first of a trilogy. A tale of an exodus, and one man struggles to save his people. Kale's heart raced. Footstep after footstep fell crunching dead weeds and dirt as he climbed a steep incline. He hadn't slept very well the night before, but whether that was due to anxiousness or anticipation he did not know. His arms and legs burned, but he was filled with the adrenaline that came with battle. He savoured it as it filled his blood. Bow in hand, he charged up the hill. The first one jumped towards him, massive two-handed sword raised like some crazed reaver, flying through the air. Kale drew and loosed an arrow that punched through the attacker's armour, dropped him mid-flight. He slung his bow and drew his sword as another jumped at him. Kale met him with his shoulder before he could bring his blade down, knocking him to his back. He slid the point of his blade through the warrior's neck and looked up the hill at the rest of his attackers. This hill held a crucial vantage point, overlooking the entire pass and the movements of both armies. The warriors who had taken the hill had done so in the dead of night, evading detection by Kale's own scouts. There was only one faction left that had the skill to take such a valuable position without raising an alarm. The royal scouts from the Bardon clan. They were well trained, but Kale was the king, trained from birth in the fine arts of magic and combat. Kale noticed their sigil sewn on the outside of their cloaks. This would explain why his army had encountered a well-calculated catapult barrage early in the battle. The precision of the attack took Kale by surprise at first, but having studied the battlefield thoroughly, he was able to figure out where the attacks were coming from and launch his own counter-attack, smashing the enemy to splinters. He then organised a party comprised of his best warriors to retake the hill while the army met the rest of the Bardon clan on the battlefield. The band of royal scouts on the hill was dwindling. With renewed confidence and his warriors at his back, Kale pressed on. He met his final enemy at the top of the cliff that overlooked the battle. With his worn armour and faded cloak, he had the look of a seasoned officer. Kale met him with a vicious overhand swing, locking his blade with the scout's falchion. Both warriors made an effort to wrench their weapons away, but the effort ended with the sword and falchion clattering to the ground. The scout drew a dagger from his sleeve. Kale sidestepped his first lunge and grabbed his arm. For a moment they struggled over the knife, and Kale felt his arm quiver as his enemy pushed. He saw the man smirk triumphantly, as if he knew he had the upper hand. His enemy's sudden smugness ignited Kale's adrenaline, and he threw his forehead into the man's nose. He heard a crack of bone, and the man reeled in a spurt of blood, holding his face. Kale levelled a shoulder, sending him plummeting to the valley floor. He had finally kneeled and picked up his sword when he felt an explosion followed by a wash of heat behind him. He turned and locked eyes with a scout, sword raised, unmoving, with a twisted, painful grimace on his face and smoke rising from his back. The scout slowly fell to the ground, motionless. "That's two you owe me, your grace," shouted Arya from behind him, as she cast another fireball, sending a scout into a screaming frenzy over the edge of the cliff. "Only one! Have you forgotten the ambush on the way here?" he replied. "And the one we encountered in the morning," added Crassus as he strolled up behind the party, "if we're keeping track." He was scraping the last bits of blood off his axe. Crassus was a touch slower than the rest, but Kale figured it was because he fought with so much force. He was the best warrior the king had ever met. Kale, Crassus and Arya reached the top of the cliff and surveyed the field below. The battle was near its end. Hundreds of soldiers were still fighting, pushing the enemy towards the Osgard castle. As their king, Kale became all too familiar with this scene. "The day is ours," bellowed Crassus, spreading his arms. "Aye," replied Kale, pondering. "Surely now we will finally retake Osgard," added Crassus. A few years ago, his father died trying to protect Osgard from the siege of the Bardon clan. Then this battle marked a significant turn of events. The big man sighed. Kale was having trouble sharing his excitement. "And then what?" he asked sullenly. Crassus was taken aback. Your Grace, we will have gained access to the eastern lands. Then we can focus on pushing the rest of the Amerdons back to wherever they came from. We may even retake the Great Mountain Pass and replenish our Riftstone supply. This will give our wizards an advantage in the next battles for many years to come. We'll finally be able to grow our empire, added Arya, trying to remain optimistic. An empire of rubble built on debt and emptiness, replied Cale, looking out over the battlefield. Arya and Crassus regarded their king with disbelief. Cale continued. My friends, the clan wars began over 600 years ago, and now there is nothing left to fight for. The eastern lands are ruins, and the great mines of the mountain pass are depleted. Soon enough we will be fighting over food and water. It is over. This land has died, and there's nothing left to fight for. It's time to look for a new place. Crassus turned to his king, his friend, with whom he had survived many battles, victories and defeats. Sometimes, though, it was difficult not to talk to him as he would a younger brother. And where will we go, South, north, beyond the sea? It's past time we opened the old chambers and reactivated the portal. Leave Mara to its fate, replied Cale. His warriors didn't answer. They knew he was right. Mara was a dying land, and the only way their people could continue was if they found another place to settle. They needed a fresh start, a second chance. On top of the cliff, the wind rustled dried shrubs and kicked up dust. They stood watching as the battle slowly dissolved into nothing. The soldiers continued to move in ragged formations of 3 or 4, disposing of the stragglers that continued to fight, and making prisoners of those who didn't. Arya sighed, thinking of how far they had come. Could we really reactivate the portal, she thought. Arya remembered when she was younger, learning history lessons from the matriarch of her clan. The chambers had been closed for centuries. And how do you propose we do that? She asked. Cale looked at his warriors, friends he had known since so long ago, and told him his plan. On top of the cliff, Cale formulated his plan and his warriors listened. He started by explaining that he had spent the previous few years studying the ancient texts concerning the portal and how to open it. He then described how he strategically met the Armedans on this ground so that his army could push them back beyond Osgard Castle, opening the eastern and southern roads for the first time in a long time. Arya would go east, Ernsoft City, to search for the portal's navigation map in the Tomb of the Ancients. Crassus was to go south to retrieve the portal's power source. Through the marshes, the big man clarified. Cale nodded. Good. Crassus smiled. The marshes were notorious for the plethora of weird creatures, and Crassus was something of a slayer. Suddenly he was excited about his role in the journey. Cale felt satisfied that his warriors would be able to do their part and return with the pieces they needed to start afresh. There was a lot of work to do, but it was the beginning of a quest that would save his people. Well, that's the end of tonight's tale. Should you wander back this way sometime, be sure to stop in for another Legend of Ellaria. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button there on the right, or checking out some other videos here on the left, or perhaps you might even share with some friends.